Welcome to our Linux classes. So friends, today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, an important topic, and that is related to security enhanced Linux. So the topic which we are going to discuss today is Selinux. Selinux is important because in any environment, security is main concern. So we are going to discuss what is Selinux, why should I use Selinux on my RHL server, and what are the steps to configure it. So all these things we are going to cover in this section. We'll have a lot of sessions, initial few lectures that would be your theoretical, and once you will understand Selinux, then we will move to the lab session. So friends, let's start. Selinux, with the name you can understand, it is security enhanced Linux. The full form of Selinux is security enhanced Linux. S stands for security, E stands for enhanced. So basically Selinux, it is a security feature of the Linux kernel, and it is designed to protect your server against hackers, misconfigurations, compromised daemons like your FTP, HTTP, Samba, SMTP daemons, and from malicious attack as well. So with the help of Selinux, we can put limits and instructs server daemons like your FTP, HTTP, and your SMTP, Samba, like what files they can access and what action they can take by defining a security policy. So this is a brief introduction about Selinux. Selinux is basically, we can say that it is a set of predefined policies, and we mainly concern about the processes and services. In simple words, if you want to explain Selinux, it is a mandatory access control, or we can say predefined access. As of now, we have two type of access control. The very first is your discretionary access control, and this is called DAC. DAC is basically, as of now, whatever the security we are using for the servers like read write executable permissions. We know that whenever we need to put some securities, what we usually do it, we usually use few commands like chmod command, and with the help of chmod command we can put permissions, and that totally depend on the users. It's my file, whatever the permission I want to put, I can use chmod command and I can secure my file. Okay, but we have some limitation with discretionary access control. Like suppose there are so many daemons are running on that, and with that daemon anybody can access your system. I'm taking an example to explain you. Suppose HTTP process run with an associate user and a group called Apache. We all know that if your server on which we have the Apache server is running, and Apache server is always run with a user and group, that is called Apache. HTTP process has access to all files and directories that Apache can access. Suppose your HTTP process got cracked, somebody has hacked it, so it can create a number of security problems. Hacked your HTTP process can access, modify and destroy all the files that belong to Apache user. Now you can see here the Apache user is having access to these files like your this location and this location, right? Your the temp, the var temp, or any other directories such as your caching directory, which can be used to install backdoor and take full control of your system. Ownership of a file provides risky control, right? Here in this example we do not have the Selinux enabled. We have put simple security with the help of your commands like chmod command. Okay, so basically Selinux, if you enable Selinux, so that is called a mandatory access control. So with the help of mandatory access control, what will happen if a process is running on your system, they have some limitation on the servers. The process like Apache, they should have access to where www temp location. Okay, but if the process related, a user related to the process, if it will try to access some other like temp and where temp, it will deny. So this is what the benefit of SE Linux. I'm just reading out. Security enhanced Linux is an additional layer of system security. Additional layer means like as of now we know that we use simple firewalls, right? Your antivirus. Okay, we can say it is just like a security on the top of these levels, right? So friends, a primary goal of SE Linux is to protect user data from the system services that have been compromised. Most Linux administrators are familiar with the standard user group and other permission security model. So as of now we are using simple user group and other permissions, read write executable permissions, and this is a user and group based model known as discretionary access control. As I told you, there are two types of access control. One is your discretionary access control, in which we have simple user group and other permissions are there, and another one that comes SE Linux comes under is your MAC, that is a mandatory access control. If you enable SE Linux come into mandatory access control. SE Linux provides an additional layer of security that is object based and controlled by more sophisticated rules known as mandatory access control. So what will happen if you enable your SE Linux? If you enable SE Linux, what will happen? We know that if you have server, Apache server is running, so a lot of applications are running. So basically mandatory access, it is applicable to the users access to the server via any application only. It is not like suppose you have servers, anybody is trying to access with the credential, username and password. No, we are using the control on the servers while we are trying to access the server with an application like your FTP application, like your Samba, your HTTP, your SMTP, and any application. Any user is trying to access the server via any application, not direct access. So in that case, if you use SE Linux, so with the help of SE Linux, the user is confined. Okay, so what user can do, where he can go, what he cannot do, what he can download, so all these controls we can do with the SE Linux. So we have understand that we have two type of access control. One is your DAC, another one is your MAC. Your SE Linux come under MAC. So I am moving to the next PPT. It is taking an example like if the Apache service is running on your system without SE Linux protection. So this is called your DAC. To allow remote anonymous access to a web server, firewall posts must be open. If you have servers and if you want anybody can access your web server, obviously the ports would be open. However, this gives malicious people an opportunity to crack the system through a security exploit. If they compromise the web server process, gain its permissions. The permissions of Apache user. We all know that if Apache services are running, so there would be a user. If you install Apache on your system, by default a user will be created, and that would be Apache user, and the same as a group, Apache group. Okay, so that user group has read write access to things like your document root this location, as well as write access to this. So what will happen if anybody will try to access your servers via this HTTP process, they can have the access to these locations, and they can, if they have access to this location, they can install some third-party softwares, and they will try to they can try to hack your system, they can harm your system. So it is, if you enable the SE Linux, this is just like you are giving some extra protection to your system. So what will happen if the process user, if SE Linux is enabled, will try to go somewhere, your SE Linux will stop it. SE Linux will tell that you are confined to this location only. Your work is confined to this location, like where www. You cannot go to anywhere else. So this is the benefit of SE Linux. It is just like an extra security to your system. Apache service with SE Linux protection enabled. So what will happen? Now you can see in the PPT here, this is Apache service is running on your system, and we know that Apache is having the access to all these locations, right? So what will happen here? SE Linux is enabled now. SE Linux is a set of security rules that determine which process can access which file and directories and ports. So it is by default the the securities rules has been applicable. If you enable it, by default the specified rules will be applicable to each files, directories, ports, process. Okay, so what will happen? Every file, process, directory and port has a special security level that is called Selinux context. A context is a name that is used by Selinux policy to determine whether a process can access a file, directory or port. With the help of context, every file, every directory, whatever the directory and file would be in your servers, they will have some context. With the help of context, I will explain you once we will have the lab session how we can check the context. And with the help of context, it will come to know that which process or which user can access it or not access it. By default, policy doesn't allow any interaction unless an explicit rule grant access. Okay, if there is no allow rule, no access is allowed. So it is saying that suppose if it is a Apache user, so what will happen? Any Apache user will try to Apache user should have access to this directory only. And if it is trying to go to this location, if it is trying to go to this location, an Apache user will try to go to in some other directory like your any home/home and any user, it will deny it. Although suppose you have this directory, if you have given full permission with the help of chmod command, you have given full permission. But if Selinux is enabled, what will happen? The process Apache user, if will try to access this location, although the directory is having full permission, but Selinux will stop it at that time. If you have explicitly allowed, then this is a different case. If you have allowed, then it is okay. Otherwise, by default, with the rules, set rules, defined rules, it won't allow any users, application user to access it. So friend, this is just like another set of security layer over to your simple permissions like read, write, executable, or we can say firewall and antivirus. So friend, that's all for this lecture. Hope you got an idea. In the next lecture we'll understand more about it. So thanks for watching, and if you have time, please join with me in the next lecture.